So, we are starting an important series called The Art of Decision Making. And in this first part, we are going to talk about something that silently controls your career, your confidence, your future, the decisions you make. Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever made a decision that you may think later, why do I have done this? Maybe you said yes too quickly. Maybe you stayed somewhere too long. Maybe you avoided a decision completely. And later you thought, why did I do that? Most people don't make poor decisions because they are unintelligent. They make poor decisions because they are emotional, unclear, and pressured. Decision making is not an intelligence problem, it is a clarity problem. The first reason most people make poor decision is emotion. When you are afraid, you choose safety. When you are angry, you choose reaction. When you feel insecure, you choose validation. When you feel pressure, you choose speed over thinking. Emotions are powerful, and if you don't recognize them, they silently drive your choice. Think about this. How many times have you avoided a big opportunity because you were afraid of failing? That was not logic, that was fear. How many times have you agreed to something just because you don't want to disappoint someone? That was not clarity, that was emotional pressure. Another major reason for poor decision is overthinking. Overthinking feels productive. It feels like analysis. But in reality, overthinking is often disguised fear. You replay the scenario again and again. You imagine every possible negative outcome. You wait for the perfect sign. But perfection never comes. And while you are overthinking, time moves. Opportunities don't wait. There is something even more dangerous than making the wrong decision. It is not making a decision at all. Indecision feels safe because you are not committing to anything, but indecision has a cost. When you don't decide, life decides for you. When you delay, someone else acts. When you hesitate, opportunities shift. Not deciding is still a decision. And most people underestimate the cost of waiting. Another reason people make poor decisions is social pressure. We are influenced by what others think. We fear judgment. We want approval. So sometimes we choose what looks good and not what feels right. We choose stability over growth. We choose comfort over courage. We choose what others expect over what truly we want. And years later, we feel stuck. There is also the problem of solving the wrong problem. Sometimes the decision is not the real issue. The real issue is clarity. For example, someone might ask, should I quit my job? But the real question might be, am I growing in this environment? Am I aligned with my long term goal? Am I avoiding discomfort? If you don't define the real problem, you cannot make a strong decision. Another silent factor is ego. Ego wants to be right. Ego doesn't want to admit mistakes. Ego avoids changing direction. So even when we know something isn't working, we stay. Not because it's right, but because we don't want to feel wrong. Here is a powerful idea I want you to remember. Clarity beats intelligence. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room to make strong decisions. You need to be the clearest. Clear about your values, clear about your goals, clear about your priorities. Poor decisions often comes from unclear thinking. When your values are unclear, you get confused. When your goals are unclear, you hesitate. When your priorities are unclear, you procrastinate. Successful people are not fearless. They are not always certain, but they are clear about what matters most. And clarity reduces emotional noise. So before blaming yourself for a bad decision, ask yourself, was I emotional? Was I pressured? Was I unclear? Was I afraid? Because once you understand why poor decision happen, you can start making better ones. In part 2, I will break down the exact framework successful people use to make strong decisions, especially under pressure. Because decision making is not luck, it is a skill. And like every skill, it can be trained. If this made you reflect on your own decisions, stay with me for part 2. Thank you.